There were two wine glasses on the table, one full, one completely dry, and an empty chair across from her. She was laughing. Not the fake laugh she gave my mother on holidays. Not the, I'm trying to sound interested, chuckle she used with my friends. No, this was real. Loud. Head tilted back. The kind of laugh she hadn't used in years. And it wasn't for me. I stood in the hallway like an idiot. Just watching. Holding a small gift bag with the necklace I spent 3 weeks picking out for our anniversary dinner. The dinner she forgot we had. She didn't see me. Or maybe she did, and just didn't care. The man she was laughing with? Not there. Not physically. It was a video call. Her laptop sat in the middle of the table like a king on a throne. His voice echoed through the speaker, deep and playful, like he belonged in that room more than I ever had. She twirled her hair. She never twirled her hair with me. She said, I can't believe you remember that. She said, stop, you're making me blush. She said, you always make me feel like the only woman in the world. And then, she reached for the wine, my wine, the bottle I bought for tonight. She poured it slowly, like a ritual, and toasted the screen. To us, she whispered. That's when the floor beneath me didn't feel real anymore. My heartbeat was so loud I thought the laptop mic would pick it up. I should have stormed in. Should have yelled. Should have smashed something. But I didn't. I stepped back. Quietly. Like a coward. I stood in the bathroom, staring at my own reflection, gift bag still in hand. I looked like a groom who showed up to the wrong wedding. 10 minutes later, she knocked on the door and said dinner was ready. As if nothing had happened. I sat across from her, watching her pretend. Watching her chew politely. Watching her lie with every blink. And right before I could say anything, she put her fork down, looked me dead in the eye, and said, don't touch me. I can't stand you. No emotion. Just a clean cut. I nodded. I chewed slower. I swallowed everything. The food, the pain, the rage, the shame. And I said nothing. But that was the last night I sat across from her without knowing everything. Because the next day, I started digging. And what I found didn't just explain her words. It made her afraid of me. The next morning, I pretended everything was fine. I kissed her cheek like I hadn't heard those 7 words. I made coffee for both of us like I always did. She didn't even look up from her phone. Just mumbled something about going to yoga, a class she hadn't mentioned in the 3 years she'd been married to me. When the front door closed behind her, I stood there for a moment, staring at the handle, breathing like I had just run a mile. My fingers trembled. My thoughts were loud and sharp. But I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was embarrassed, humiliated. And that's a more dangerous feeling than anger. Anger makes you lash out. Embarrassment makes you plan. I didn't start with her phone. I wasn't stupid. Juniper had always been secretive with it. Changed her passcode every couple of months, just in case, she'd say. So I went to the one thing she always forgot to lock, the family tablet we used for recipes and Amazon orders. I didn't expect much. I was half hoping I wouldn't find anything. Half hoping I was the crazy, paranoid husband reading too much into a bad night. But when I opened the browser, the first thing I saw was a tab still open, a private calendar entry titled Check-in, M. Hotel 9th floor. The time was yesterday. The time she said she'd been working late. The time I was buying her a necklace like an idiot. My stomach sank. My mouth went dry. I clicked further. There were no messages, no photos. She'd been careful. But not perfect. There were deleted search histories I could recover. Hotel reviews. A booking confirmation from a month ago under the name Junelle, a name she only used when ordering clothes online to feel fancy. I even found a note in the tablet's notes app. Just a list. A chilling one. Yoga alibi. Delete texts. Switch perfume. Smile if asked. It was short. Cold. Surgical. This wasn't some whirlwind, accidental flirtation. This was strategy. This was premeditated. That's when something snapped in me. Not a loud snap. Not rage. Just a quiet break. Like a thread giving way under too much weight. I stopped seeing her as my wife. I started seeing her as a puzzle. A code to crack. She had made a mistake thinking I was too soft, too boring to notice. She'd spent so long tuning me out. She didn't see me becoming quietly dangerous. I didn't confront her that day. I didn't ask about the hotel. I didn't scream or cry or demand the truth. I needed more. So that night, while she was asleep, face turned away from me, arms wrapped around a pillow instead of me, I took her phone from the nightstand. I didn't try to guess the passcode. That would have been sloppy. I used the Face ID. Her own sleeping face. Positioned just right. The phone unlocked. And what I saw in there wasn't just betrayal. It was war. Her phone didn't unlock with the first scan. I had to adjust the angle, gently turn her head a few degrees while holding my breath. The screen lit up on the second try, and there it was, the digital vault of everything she never meant for me to see. I didn't go to the texts first. That's where amateurs start. No, I opened her notes app again. I figured if she was organized enough to have an affair checklist on the tablet, she probably kept more on her phone. And I was right. There was a folder, buried under other folders with innocent names like grocery, quotes, and home remodel. Inside that folder were 3 files. One was just a list of dates, timestamps that lined up suspiciously with the days she claimed to be emotionally drained or not feeling well. Another was labeled M, ideas. That one made me pause. Ideas? I opened it. It wasn't just notes. It was a diary. But not about me. About him. Things she liked about him. How he said her name like it was a song. How he listened to her without checking his watch. How he didn't shut down like I did when life got overwhelming. She wrote, I forgot what it feels like to be seen. I stopped reading. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't break her phone. I just sat there in the dark, holding the cold device, wondering how someone could spend years loving you, sleeping beside you, eating your cooking, wearing the ring you bought, while writing love letters about someone else 10 feet away. I should have stopped. I knew I should have stopped. But I couldn't. I opened her messages. There were no texts from him. At least, not in her inbox. I scrolled through her contacts. He wasn't saved. But when I searched him, in the search bar, I found archived messages buried in the hidden section of her messaging app. His name was Miles. The thread was short. Most had been deleted. But there were enough fragments to know exactly who he was. Your husband doesn't deserve you. I think about you every hour. 9th floor, same room. I'll be waiting. And Juniper's replies? Cold. Flirty. Efficient. I can leave by 7:45. I need this more than you know. Don't call. He's getting suspicious. That last one, it echoed in my head like a curse. He's getting suspicious. So I was right. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't paranoid. She knew. And she played me anyway. I put the phone back exactly where I found it. I watched her sleep for a long time. She looked peaceful, almost innocent. You'd never guess what she was capable of just by looking at her like that. But I didn't confront her. Not yet. I needed more. And if she thought I was suspicious before, she had no idea what I was about to do next. The next morning, she made pancakes. I know that sounds small, stupid even. But Juniper hadn't made pancakes in over a year. She hated mornings. Hated measuring flour. Hated the sound of the blender. Yet here she was, flipping golden circles like some Stepford wife, while humming a song I didn't recognize. I sat at the table in silence, staring at the plate like it had been poisoned. Maple syrup's in the fridge, she said without looking up. She was calm. Maybe too calm. She had either convinced herself I was still completely clueless, or this was her way of pacifying me, tossing a few sweet gestures my way to keep me off the scent. I played along. I ate. I smiled. I even complimented the crisp edges. She kissed my cheek before I left for work like she used to. The smallest touch, the briefest graze of lips, but I felt none of it. My skin didn't react. My body was too busy thinking about how to tear this entire illusion down without making a sound. That day at work, I didn't get anything done. I sat at my desk rereading those messages in my mind, seeing her list of compliments, hearing her voice say those 7 words again, don't touch me. I can't stand you. Something had to give. So I started small. I went back to the hotel she'd listed in her check-in calendar. It wasn't far. 20 minutes from our house. Too close to be innocent. Too convenient. I didn't walk in like a madman. I didn't demand answers. I played my part. I wore my dullest clothes, lowered my voice, smiled like a man trying to plan a surprise anniversary getaway. Hi there, I said to the front desk clerk, a tired young guy with coffee breath and a loose tie. My wife and I stayed here recently, and I think I left something in the room. We were on the 9th floor. Can't remember the room number. I was hoping you could help me look it up. He hesitated. Sir, I'm not really supposed to. I totally understand. I'm not asking for names, just the room number. I think it was a Thursday night, about 2 weeks ago. He looked around, lowered his voice, then tapped a few keys. Room 903, he said finally. Checked in under the name June Linton. I smiled. That's her. I walked out of that hotel shaking. Not from fear, from vindication. From that strange, cold fire you feel when you realize you were never insane. Just ignored. Back home, Juniper was already in bed. She was scrolling through her phone when I entered the room, face glowing under the screen. She didn't ask where I'd been. Didn't ask why I was late. She never did anymore. She just said, "Turn off the hall light, will you?" I did. And I stood there in the dark for a few seconds longer than I should have, just watching her, wondering how long it takes a person to forget who they married. Wondering what else she was hiding behind that relaxed, unreadable face. But here's the thing. I didn't just want the truth anymore. I wanted her to say it, to admit it, to be shocked that I knew. So I gave her the rope, and I waited for her to hang herself. For the next few days, I didn't sleep much. Not because of nightmares. Because I didn't want to miss anything. Every breath Juniper took, every text she sent, every time she looked away when I spoke. It was all part of the puzzle now. And I watched her with the attention of a man trying to memorize his own crime scene before the cops show up. She noticed. Of course she did. On the third day, she asked, "Are you okay? You look distant." That was funny. Me distant? I said I was just tired from work. She nodded too quickly, like she wanted to believe me more than she actually did. I kept collecting data. Small things. I synced her phone to my old iPad using the same Apple ID we once shared back when we were still that kind of couple, the kind that made matching playlists and watched each other's shows. I had access now to her messages again, this time in real time. And Miles, he was getting bolder. Messages came in the middle of the night. Still thinking about last week. Next time, tell me what you wore when you got home. That drives me nuts. She didn't respond right away. She waited hours, sometimes until the morning. But she always replied. And her replies weren't what I expected. They were shorter now, drier. One night, she typed, "I can't keep doing this." Then she deleted it before hitting send. I watched the typing bubble disappear. And then she sent a thumbs up instead. A damn thumbs up. I sat there staring at the screen, wondering what the hell was happening. Was she pulling away from him? Was she getting tired of the game? Or was it just another strategy one wasn't smart enough to decode? I didn't know what scared me more, the thought of her still loving him, or the thought that maybe she never really loved either of us. That maybe we were just two chess pieces on opposite sides of a board she built. So I decided it was time to push. I printed out a photo. Just one. A grainy screenshot of her calendar entry from that hotel night. I folded it and slid it into her coat pocket when she wasn't looking. Then I waited. That night, she didn't say anything. Didn't act suspicious. Didn't even check the pocket, as far as I could tell. But the next morning, she was up early, showered, dressed, sitting at the table before I even came downstairs. Coffee made. Face unreadable. And there it was, right in the center of the table, the folded paper. My folded paper. Unopened. Uncreased. "Did you put that in my coat?" she asked, eyes locked on mine. I shrugged. "What paper?" She didn't blink. Didn't raise her voice. Just slid it across the table. I found it. But I didn't open it. "Whatever it is, if you wanted to talk, you'd talk." I stared at her. Not because I was impressed. Not because I believed her. But because for the first time in weeks, I saw it. The fear. It was tiny, buried under layers of calm. But it was there. And I wanted more of it. So I pushed the paper back toward her. "Open it," I said. "Since you're not hiding anything." She hesitated. And for the first time since she whispered, "I can't stand you," I felt like she was the one holding her breath. She unfolded the page slowly. Her eyes scanned it. Her face didn't change, not at first. Then, something twitched. Something she couldn't control. Her lip pulled just slightly, like she'd tasted something sour. She looked up and said nothing. Not denial. Not outrage. Nothing. And that silence? That silence told me more than any confession ever could. But even then, I hadn't uncovered the full story. Because there was still something she hadn't told him. Something buried even deeper than the affair. And once I found it, I realized I wasn't the only one being betrayed. That day, something shifted in the house. She didn't speak much after reading the folded paper. Didn't storm off or throw accusations. She just floated. Like a ghost walking through a home she didn't belong to anymore. The food stayed untouched. Her wine went stale in the glass. She walked past me like I was furniture. But I didn't press. I was done talking. Instead, I turned my attention to the man behind the curtain, Miles. Until that point, I hadn't even bothered to look him up. I didn't care what he looked like, how old he was, or what he did for a living. He was just the other guy. A name in her messages. A shadow in our house. But something about her silence that morning made me curious. Not about her. About him. So I dug. It didn't take long. His number led me to a burner email, which, thanks to some lazy slip on his part, was tied to a freelance website. A couple of reviews. One portfolio link. His full name. Miles Henner. Turns out he wasn't some powerful executive or charismatic stranger from the gym. He was a wedding photographer. That made me laugh. A wedding photographer. A man who spent his weekends capturing love while quietly destroying mine. His website was filled with curated smiles and soft focus photos of couples on beaches and mountaintops. His bio read like it was written by someone who'd never felt guilt in his life. I live to catch real moments between real people. I stared at that line for a long time, jaw clenched. Then I did something I never imagined myself doing. I filled out his contact form. I didn't use my real name. I posed as a newly engaged client looking to book a shoot. Said my fiancé had seen his work online and was obsessed. I asked if he'd be free for a consultation. Said I preferred to talk on the phone, that we had a few specific questions. He replied the next morning. Polite. Professional. He offered a 30-minute call that same evening. And I accepted. At 6 p.m. sharp, my phone rang. My hands were sweating. I don't know why. He didn't know me, had no reason to suspect anything. Still, I felt like I was walking into a confession booth with a loaded gun in my coat. Hey, this is Miles, he said cheerfully. Congrats on the engagement, man. I almost laughed. His voice was exactly what I imagined. Warm, confident, smooth in that annoying, effortless way. The kind of voice that never hesitated. I played along. We talked about packages, shoot locations, lighting preferences. I kept my voice light. I even chuckled when he joked about how awkward grooms always are. Then I shifted. I said, my fiancée actually came across your work through a friend. I think her name's Juniper? There was silence. Not long, less than a second, but tight, like a breath caught in his throat. Oh, he said, voice lower now. I'm not sure who that is. I smiled. Sure you do. Juniper Linton. 9th floor. Same room. Another silence. This one longer. I think there's some confusion, he said slowly. Listen, I'm not sure what you're implying. Not implying anything. I cut in. Just wanted to let you know something. She's married. She's been married for 5 years. And I'm the guy who bought the ring. He went quiet. I could hear him breathing. I imagined his eyes darting around the room, trying to make sense of what just happened. I don't know what, he started. She told you she wasn't married, didn't she? I said. She told you I was her ex. Or dead. Or irrelevant. Didn't she? Still nothing. She's lying to both of us, Miles. And if I were you, I'd start asking her why. Then I hung up. My heart was pounding, but not from anger. From clarity. This whole time, I thought I was the only one drowning. But she wasn't just two-timing me. She was two-timing him, too. Telling different versions of her life to different people, like she was trying on lives in a dressing room and seeing which one fit best. I waited for her reaction. I expected yelling, accusations, maybe even tears. But that night, she didn't say a word. She just sat on the edge of the bed, quietly folding laundry, as if she hadn't just been exposed. And maybe that was the scariest part of all, because silence from someone who's been caught isn't always guilt. Sometimes it's calculation. 3 days passed after the call with Miles, and Juniper still hadn't said a word about it. Not a single change in routine. Not one misstep. She cooked. She folded laundry. She even asked me if I wanted to watch a movie on Friday night like it was 2019 and we hadn't been sleeping in emotional rubble. At first, I thought the silence was shame. Then I thought maybe it was fear. But now I think it was control. Because on the 4th day, she broke the quiet. Not with tears. Not with a confession. Not even with an apology. With breakfast. She made my favorite, French toast with cinnamon and powdered sugar, the way my mom used to make it. She even brewed the good coffee, the expensive kind she always said was for guests. I walked into the kitchen half expecting her to toss the plate at me. Instead, she gestured to it and said, "Eat before it gets cold." And I did. Not because I trusted her, but because I wanted to know where this was going. Halfway through the meal, she sat across from me and folded her hands like we were about to begin a mediation. Then she spoke. "I know you called him," she said. Her tone wasn't angry. It wasn't even defensive. It was the tone of someone who expected it to happen. Who counted on it? I figured you would eventually, she continued. But you should have asked yourself why I let you. I stopped chewing. Let me? She leaned back. Calm. Almost amused. I left the tablet open, Harlan. I knew the calendar was synced. You think I didn't know what you'd find? She smiled, just a little. Not wide. Just enough to cut deep. I gave you something to chase. And while you were chasing it, you missed everything else. I swallowed hard. My throat was suddenly dry. What did I miss? I asked. She tilted her head. That's the thing, she said. You don't even know the right questions. You've been playing detective in the wrong story. I pushed my plate aside. I know about the hotel. I know about Miles. I know about the messages. She shrugged. You know what I wanted you to know? That's the difference. Then she stood, picked up my half-empty coffee mug, and walked it to the sink like we were just a couple cleaning up after brunch. You want to talk about betrayal? She said, still facing the window. You think it's about sex? About text messages? You think you've caught me? But you have no idea who I've become, Harlan. No idea what I've done while you've been sleepwalking through this marriage like a sad ghost. She turned and looked me straight in the eye. There was no warmth in her face now, just something surgical. Like a surgeon holding a scalpel over a patient she stopped caring about halfway through the procedure. You should ask yourself why I stopped wanting you. Why I said I couldn't stand you. Why every time you spoke, I felt like I was suffocating. I didn't respond. Because part of me knew she was right. I had been sleepwalking. Through birthdays. Through dinner conversations. Through months of subtle signals I refused to see because I didn't know how to handle pain that didn't scream in my face. She walked out of the kitchen, leaving her words behind like knives stuck in drywall. But I didn't follow her. Instead, I walked to the hallway closet. I reached for the old lockbox behind the coats. The one she forgot existed. The one she'd hidden things in during the early years. Old letters, financial statements, forgotten keepsakes she didn't want me to see. And inside was something that didn't just prove she'd been lying. It proved she'd been planning an exit long before Miles ever showed up. The lockbox was old, dented at the corners, the key still taped to the bottom like we agreed years ago when we first bought it. Back then it was for important papers. But like so many things in our marriage, its purpose changed without discussion. Inside, under a pile of dusty insurance documents and a crumpled greeting card from her mother, was a thin folder. Labeled in her handwriting, Exit Plan. My heart sank. I opened it slowly, afraid of what I might find. A divorce lawyer's contact, bank transfers, custody details for a child we never had. But instead, I found something stranger. It wasn't legal paperwork. It was therapy worksheets, journal entries, budget outlines, timelines, pages from self-help books annotated in her tight cursive handwriting. The first page was dated over a year ago. It read, I can't keep doing this. I feel invisible. I'm becoming someone I don't like. I don't know if I'm staying for him or just afraid of being alone. I kept reading. Every page was a battle. Not against me, exactly, but against herself. Against the version of her that had given up, that let resentment grow where love used to live. There were notes about guilt, about failure, about trying to communicate and being met with silence. There were even reminders. Speak up, even if he shuts down. He isn't cruel. He's just tired. So am I. Don't wait for him to see you. Say something. I sat on the floor of the hallway, stunned. This wasn't the cold strategy of a heartless manipulator. This was a slow unraveling of a woman who wanted out because she didn't know how to stay. She had tried. And maybe, in her own twisted way, Miles wasn't an escape. He was a symptom. A flare shot into the sky because I hadn't been looking at her anymore. For the first time since this all began, I didn't feel rage. I didn't feel broken. I felt small. Not in a self-pitying way. Just aware. Aware that I hadn't been the victim I thought I was. That both of us had been bleeding in the same bed for years, and neither of us ever said a word. That night, I didn't confront her. I didn't accuse. Instead, I waited until she came into the room. She stood there silently, like she expected another fight. But I didn't give her one. I sat on the edge of the bed and said quietly, I read it. She nodded. No denial. I didn't know. I whispered. I wasn't looking. And for the first time in what felt like a lifetime, she looked at me like I was really there. Then she sat beside me. No hand-holding. No tears. Just two people sitting side by side in the quiet honesty they'd avoided for far too long. Do you want to try again? I asked. She hesitated, then said, I don't know. And strangely, that was okay. Because I did know. I knew I wanted to try. I knew I wanted to finally talk. To show up. To feel again. Even if it meant facing everything we'd buried. We started therapy together 2 weeks later. It wasn't perfect. We weren't suddenly healed. But we showed up. Every week. We argued. We apologized. We laughed a little. We remembered who we used to be. And started asking who we might become, separately or together. Months passed. Miles faded. He stopped calling. She didn't chase. She apologized one night, unexpectedly. Not just for the cheating, but for giving up on me before giving me the chance to fight. I apologized, too, for disappearing while standing in the same room. For making her feel like she had to scream to be noticed. And last week, she made pancakes again. No secret meaning. No manipulation. Just pancakes. We sat by the window while it rained and talked about nothing in particular. It wasn't a movie ending, but it was real. And the porch light? It's on again. But now, when I get home, she's standing in the doorway too.